Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Lorena Cardama, partner at the Cardama Law Firm, calling in all the way from Orlando in Florida. Now then, Lorena has a wealth of experience in the area of family law and will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. Lorena's going to be talking about understanding your emotions while going through a divorce. Now, I'm sure this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So, if you're one of the many divorcing couples in Orlando, Florida, you might want to down tools, log out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever other kind of distraction that may divert your attention away from today's conversation. Maybe even pick up a notepad and pen, take some notes, and listen in to what Lorena has to share with us today. So, with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Lorena.
Thank you so much for having me today.
You are so welcome. Okay then, Lorena, like I said, we have a short amount of time, so let's just jump straight in. In your own words, can you briefly describe the types of people who you serve and, the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
I help people when they're going through the greatest time of need. They're coming to me in a situation where they're either facing divorce and don't know what to do, or maybe facing a paternity action where, the parents were not married at the time that the children were born and now are separating. So they're coming to me confused, not knowing what to do, not understanding what their rights are, and they're dealing with so many emotions at the time. They're angry, especially if someone cheated. They're have anxiety with the unknowns of what the legal process is and what could happen to their children. They feel stressed and have major anxiety. So I try to help them go through these emotions by truly understanding what it is that they're feeling and give them some certainty as to what the process is while the divorce or the paternity action is taking place. And I try to help them understand that we have to see the bigger picture and not just what they're feeling in the moment. Obviously, people going through divorces, it's hard. They don't understand it. Sometimes it's their first divorce. They've been married for 20 years, and they don't know what life is going to be like after the divorce is over. So I deal with wives. I deal with husbands. I'm not just exclusive to one gender. So I help all of them understand what's happening to them, and while keeping the main focus, which is their children, on board.
Okay then, Lorena, it goes without saying that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or even legal assistance. So,
correct.
With that in mind, and I'm sure there are many of them out there, but what's the most common misconception that you come across while you're helping the people who you love to help the most?
Right. So the common misconception is that when they come into me, they have to be in fight mode. They have to, give it all, make the other person's life miserable, and feel like everything that they're doing has to be for them to win. And that's really not the case. A lot of mothers come to me thinking that fathers are only entitled to get every other weekend time sharing, and fathers come to me thinking, I want more time. So it's not about fighting one another. The misconception is that it's either him or me and one of us is going to lose. And that's not the way it is. The court system is not about winning. It's not about losing. It's about trying to figure out what's in the best interest of the children when dealing with divorces or paternity actions. I don't believe either one of them are going to walk out of court extremely happy with the results. But if they can't figure it out themselves and they allow a judge to make the decision for them, that's likely what's going to happen. The key, what I believe the key is to try to figure it out together. Try to sit down as the people that you once were when you once loved each other and figure out what's in the best interest of your children. And fighting is not that. So I try to help them go through this process and understanding that they don't have to be angry. They don't have to fight the entire time, and help them see things in a different perspective so that they can come up to a conclusion together, um, rather than allowing a judge to make the decisions for them.
Okay, so based on what you just shared with us, Lorena, and keeping client confidentiality in mind, of course, please share an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with those challenges, with that misconception that you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them.
Yes, I can share hundreds of stories, but I'll keep it to one.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So one story that truly sticks out to me, it's a case that I dealt with several years ago, where the mother had a child while in the marriage and passed the child off as being the father's. And later in the years came out that the child was not the husband's, that she had had an affair. And I represented the husband at the time, and he was deeply hurt. He felt betrayed, and he was angry. So he filed for divorce and decided he wanted nothing to do with this child who he had raised for about 10 years, and wanted to turn his back on this child because of the anger he had against the mother for cheating and lying to him. I tried talking to him and understanding that the child had nothing to do with it, that the child only knows him and understands him as his father. The courts placed the gag orders. We were unable to tell the child who his biological father was until he turned 18. So my client was dad. So the child didn't understand why dad did not want to see him anymore. Didn't understand why he was picking up his sisters but not picking him up. So the process took about 2 years. And right at the end, I had a conversation with my client. The judge had a conversation with the client and explained to him that sometimes it's not about how the child came to you. It's about being grateful that the child did come to you. You know, parents sometimes do adoptions who can't have children. He was his only son because he had 2 other daughters. And that if he were to able to put that anger aside from the mom and turn his expectations into appreciation, expecting that child was his, it's not his, so now he's angry, but appreciate the fact that he's been given the opportunity to raise such a wonderful child, and to be thankful for that. He was able to put those emotions aside at the end and come around and decided that he was going to be part of this child's life. He forgave his wife for what happened. The divorce was final. And then my understanding is that 2 months later, they got back together and got remarried. So are now living together as a happy couple, despite 2 years of heavy litigated divorce.
Excellent. That's a great case study. So thanks for sharing that with us,
Sure.
Lorena. You're welcome. So just as a reminder, today's topic is understanding your emotions while going through a divorce. And with that in mind, and for those divorcing couples who are out there who are wanting to know more, Lorena, and just like the misconceptions, I'm sure there are many more, but what's the most common and unknown pitfall that they need to avoid no matter what?
Anger and revenge. I think that the biggest thing that they need to avoid is anger and revenge, because you tend to be blinded by your anger, because either the person cheated or either the person no longer wants to be with you or you feel betrayed. So you're dealing with this anger and you're focused on getting back at your spouse or your ex-spouse and not recognizing everything that is going on around you, not realizing the effects that's happening to not only your children, but to you personally. When you live in a state of anger, you cannot be thankful. When you're angry, you can't see the beauty in things. When you're mad, you can't feel blessed. So constantly living under those emotions of anger and revenge against the other person does not give you the freedom to be able to move on. Because in that state that you're living in, you're seeing that life is happening to you, but that's not the way it is. Life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. So you need to see the appreciation on the fact that maybe this marriage is not meant to be, that now you're able to find a person that's for you or live a more happier life, because if the divorce is happening, then you weren't supposed to be with one another. So understanding that life is happening for you and allowing you to be grateful for the things that are happening. You're no longer feeling anger and revenge, and your divorce can be smooth. It can be less painful on everybody involved, and it can be a lot less costly.
Lorena, can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
I mean, the topic today is understanding emotions while going through a divorce. And so far, you've shared some great information. You spoke about some of the misconceptions out there. You just spoke about one of the pitfalls that the people who you work with need to avoid at all costs, no matter how they feel. So you spoke about anger and revenge. But I'd just like to know a little bit more about you. So let's just imagine it's a Monday morning or any morning of the week. It's 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever time your alarm clock goes off. And Lorena has a full day's work ahead of her, helping people who find themselves in that unfortunate position of going through a divorce. With a day ahead like that, then, Lorena, how do you feel? How is this something you're still very passionate about? What's going on in your head on a morning like that?
Yeah. Well, in the morning I have two sets of twins, so it's kind of hectic for me in the morning. But once I get them all settled in,
right.
And I do my mornings appreciations, I do my incantations, and then I focus on my cases, because I'm going at it in a perception of gratefulness rather than as adversary. So I look at what's happening for my day, and I'm excited about being able to help people have conclusions in their life. If I have a dissolution of marriage happening, I'm helping them close that chapter in their life. If it's it could be like today. I had court this morning. It could be keeping a father out of jail. It could be providing alimony to a wife who has given 25 years of her life to, stay at home and now is going through a divorce. So I see everything in a light of, that's what my clients deserve. That's what they should get. And I fight for them for that. But in the process, I try to help them keep their emotions, straight so that they don't do it out of a bad part of their heart, that they do it out of, this is what's my entitlement, this is what I deserve, rather than I just want this because I don't want him to have it or her to have it.
Well, I'm here to speak on behalf of the listener, those divorcing couples that are out there listening to you right now. And I'm sure that after listening to that very brief insight into the more personal side of you, that they're going to want to know even more about yourself. So if you could just spend a few moments, but this time just speaking a little bit about your background and your education and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law. I think if you could do that for us, that would be fantastic.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm not only talking from experience of being a family law attorney for over 10 years. I myself am divorced. I have, like I mentioned earlier, a set of twins that are not my husband's, but and I dealt with the divorce process and dealt with having to figure out time sharing. There was definitely a point where I think I allowed our emotions to get the best of us and realized how it was affecting our daughters. So we decided to stop fighting and drop the case and do whatever was best for our kids. And now 10 years later, we have a great relationship. My kids see him when they want. And, we both live a very happy life, and my kids have not been affected by it. So I talk from my own personal experience as well as I've dealt with about 1,000 plus or over 1,000 couple cases that I've been doing this. Since I started practicing law, I've only done family law. So I've seen the bad, the good, and the ugly. And I've always lived in Florida. I went to Stetson University for undergrad, and I went to Berry Law for law school. And my office has always been in Central Florida area, well known here in the community. I volunteer my time with teen court to help the youth who either are troubled or those who want to be attorneys. I volunteer my time with Guardians of Justice, where I'm a pro bono guardian ad litem. I also help with other aspiring attorneys who want to help. I try coaching them so that they can grow their business through my other company, Legal Edge Coaching. And I help them grow their company by finding fulfillment in what they're doing rather than just making it a job. So I've been in Florida for about 30 years. So I enjoy being here. I enjoy helping the community. I give back as much as I can. And despite the fact that sometimes my career is not the most lucrative one and it's not the most admired one, because we do have to deal with separation, I love helping people. And if that's what I do on a daily basis, then that fulfills me.
Yeah, it's certainly not, as you said, not an admired career, but it's certainly one, in my eyes, one that's such utmost importance. And it's the reason why I started this series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. Because like yourself, you've been through a divorce. I myself, I've not been through a divorce, but I was a divorced child. And I was probably one of those children who you help, who you represent. But this was back in the 70s. I'm in my mid 50s now. And in those days, these kinds of resources, mediators, collaborators, etc., didn't exist. And my parents' breakup was very volatile. It was very violent. It was, there was a lot of stress there for myself and my little brother. And I had to work all the way through that on my own. And unfortunately, my parents used their children as the go-between. It was like a game of tennis. So your dad's this and your mom's this. And it was just awful to deal with that as a child. Fortunately, we both came through that quote unquote unscathed. We didn't turn to drugs or crime as many children of divorce do. So, but I know when I'm looking at the statistics, even though a divorcing couple have reasons to be upset, have reasons for their anger and the revenge you spoke about, the real victims are always, hands down, the children. And hence the reason for starting this series, to bring people like yourself on, to give you a platform to speak to those divorcing couples out there with the hope that they say, something, that Lorena, she knows what she's talking about. Maybe we should look at this from a different perspective. Maybe we should think more about our children than ourselves. And if that happens, if only that happens to one divorcing couple out there, then I am so happy, because that's the job done. That's the goal of why we're actually doing this. Of course, it's to help you. It benefits you. It gives you the exposure. It gives our show the exposure. But it's for all of those innocent children out there who find themselves in the middle of a divorcing couple. So thank you so much for sharing that side of your story, Lorena. Thank you so much for that.
No problem. I actually I've interviewed about 50 kids, because I'm in the process of writing a book, which is called Their Story. It's not published yet, but I'm in the process, where I've interviewed children whose parents have gone through divorce to hear their perspective of how things are. And it's completely amazing how they're so innocent, and then everything to them is like, well, I don't get why they can't just get along, or I don't understand why they're fighting. It's so sometimes parents just need to take a step back and listen to kids, because kids are selfish, right? And it's a good thing that they're selfish. They just want mommy time and they want daddy time. Right. And that's what they deserve. So we shouldn't stand in the way of that. We should be able to give them what our kids need and what they want, despite of our feelings and despite of what's going on with us.
Yeah, they've got to put that aside. I mean, it took me years into my adulthood, mid-30s, to deal with the issues from the childhood, because I spent most of my young adulthood blaming myself, because I didn't know why my parents were splitting. Why were they fighting? Why was all this blood and violence and shouting and drinking, and why, and with no answers, you just you internalize it all and blame yourself. So please, if you're a divorcing couple listening to the show right now, put your feelings aside. Do it for the children. If anything, do it for the children. It doesn't matter if your husband cheated on you or vice versa. It's the children that's the most important thing. So anyway, let's get back on track here. But it's important to mention that. It's really important to mention that. So, let's just imagine for a moment, then Lorena, the kinds of divorcing couples who come to you for help, and they are wanting to know more about how to understand the emotions that they're going through in their divorce. with that picture in mind then, Lorena, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we move on to finding out how we can connect with you?
I would tell them that to just take a step back and see the picture, the whole big picture, not the moment that you're in. And of course, always look at your children and figure out what would be in their best interest. Imagine yourself in the best state that you can possibly be in, a beautiful state, and make decisions in that state. Don't make decisions when you're mad. Don't make decisions when you're angry. Make decisions in the best state that you can possibly be in, because when you're there, then you're definitely thinking of your children.
Excellent. So if there is somebody who wants to understand their emotions while they're going through the divorce process, then, Lorena, how can they reach you? Where would they find you?
Sure. They can contact me by phone or by our website. It's thecardamalaw.com. That's CARDAMALAW.com. Or they can call our office if they're local and they want to stop by. I will be more than happy to talk to them. Our phone number is 407-704-8932.
So whether you're out there cruising down the highway, or maybe you're tuning in from work on your lunch break, or you're working out at the gym and you've got your headset on, whatever the case may be, that's all we have time for today, unfortunately. Again, that was family law attorney Lorena Cardama. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Lorena. You certainly, without a doubt, hands down, 100%, have proven and have demonstrated that you're a true educator and passionate advocate for your client's success. So thank you so much, Lorena.
Thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You are so welcome. And you know something, Lorena, I'd also like to say a big thank you to the listener. All those divorcing couples out there that are tuning in and listening to the show today. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top family law attorneys in Orlando, Florida. Again, her name is Lorena Cardama. Don't forget her name. Make sure you do check her out. Send her an email. Give her a call. I'm sure you're going to be in good hands. So that's it. My name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.